Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on today's episode. We're talking Bambi. It's a classic. It's one that is foundational to so much of what we get into. We talk about sex, we talk about coming of age, we talk about being an orphan. So yeah, stay tuned. There's some deep stuff. This will be fun. All right, welcome back. This is episode 31, Micah.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
How did we get it? We were going to stop at 20.
We were going to stop at 20, but then we kept going and we got 10 more and we got a couple more we're recording today. So this is actually fun because we're starting to get into, we had a bunch in the can that we've all worked through. So now we get to be a little bit more current. We're recording this episode Wednesday and it's going to come out tomorrow or maybe the day after. So like instant feedback on how good or bad our episodes are.
Yeah, that's right. It's awesome. And then you'll be like in real time with, whatever stupid thing is happening with my mustache.
Yeah, exactly.
And then and what happened to your head, dude?
I know. So my 3-year-old had some big metal toy he was being a little punk with and acting out at the end of the night. We're just throwing it around and boom, got me right there. So I got a little Harry Potter scar coming.
Dude, for sure. We got to roll into some Harry Potter one of these days.
Yeah,
but today, what are we doing? Today we have, it is hunting season, ladies and gentlemen.
You are dressed for the occasion. It is deer season, baby.
You can't see me. I'm a floating head. So this episode is Bambi. Nothing makes you want to get out there and harvest animals like getting to know them and their feelings and their aspirations, personalities. So, yep.
Yeah, so Bambi, it's 1942. This is old Disney. We haven't done, what's the oldest Disney we've done? We've done 50s. We've done Peter Pan.
Yeah,
we did Dumbo. Is Dumbo before this?
I gotta look. No, Bambi was released after Dumbo. Dumbo came out in 1941, and Bambi was 42, which is pretty crazy to think about. That.
Oh, those are back-to-back years, yeah.
Back-to-back years, so they were hustling, and by the time, so they would have started the film, and there wasn't a world war going on, and then by the time they got around to it, like there is one going on, and then by the time Bambi comes out, like at the end of that year, we actually joined the Second World War, which is pretty crazy. So there's a 1923 novel called Bambi. And originally, MGM had purchased the screen rights to the novel in 1933. And they were going to make like a live action one, which would be tough.
Live action with real deer? I mean, they weren't CGIing deer like they did you can call the new Lion King live action. It's not. Yeah. It's also terrible. But
and so that topic actually brings up kind of what I think most stands out about this film is that it was the CGI of the time in a way that a lot of this movie, and we'll just dive right in. A lot of this movie to me seems like a tech demo in a way. So the original film or the original book is, I think the book was a love story. I think the whole nature of it is that it's a love story in the novel, which makes sense for the film because we were just talking about about
Bambi, the baby deer growing up and then fall in love with Feline.
Yeah. That ultimately the whole movie just culminates in growing up, going through adolescence, and then having kids. That's what the whole movie is about.
Yeah,
in a nutshell. But
it's a very simple coming of age story set in the woods with a deer.
Yeah, but the magic on screen seems to be just demonstrating what at the time there was only one real show in town when it came to animation, and if you wanted to see. There was also Warner Brothers, they were doing stuff as well, but they were doing less of, their stuff had a very different tone. Their stuff was a little more prime time and, a little crazier and edgier. And then if you were going to watch this experience with anthropomorphic animals. I mean, watching Bambi, like I swear a third of the movie is just Bambi trying to walk. And
yeah.
and it's it's like, and good, because it's so well done. Like the animation is amazing, and the specificity and the anatomy.
They definitely capture like just the way they anthropomorphize like all the animals in there. I mean, they're animated characters, but it's you recognize your toddler learning to walk in that way the baby learns to walk, and there's a reason why little baby Bambi was put on every baby bib and things forever, because it evokes that connection.
Yeah, and the exercise as a storyteller, as an animator, of simply expressing that, of bringing that to life. At the time, it would have been completely novel, and there weren't millions of hours of nature photography to go watch on YouTube. You know, like this, other than living on a farm and seeing foals and calves born, this would be it. This would be you getting to be present for this magic moment of a deer.
That's interesting.
You know, so there's a lot of that I think is easy to overlook as a modern viewer.
Sure.
But for a child, like my son's 7, he should be like too old for Bambi, and but he's only been alive for 7 years. And so his viewpoint, even as with the amount of things available to him now, as there are, his viewpoint is not unbelievably different than a 7-year-old in 1942.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
In that he's only taken in so much life. And so he was totally wrapped, like dialed in on Bambi and who's who and what's going on.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, for my sake, I was too. Like the actual animation is so incredible. It would have been, and next up, we're recording a little preview. Next up, we're going to talk about Jurassic Park. But in a way, Bambi is like North American Park, you know, like, so for the audiences then, you know, this amazing ability and glimpse to see these animals behave in this way.
Seeing the animals behaving and interacting, capturing the forest, in the aesthetic of all of it in various different seasons. I like that take on it. Really brings all of those things to life. This movie feels very like the aesthetic is the point. The story is it's simple. It's a coming of age story as he goes through kind of various stages of life to where he's grown, buck by the end, going from being a baby and an infant and losing his mom along the way. But the magic of it really happens in the aesthetics.
The backgrounds are just beautifully rendered, and I don't know if it's gouache or if it's watercolor or a little mixture of both. There's probably acrylic paint, but these beautifully rendered backgrounds, great music, and then like as from the story standpoint, it's really this base hit, but it doesn't miss anything. You know, it doesn't drop the ball. We get to see this idea of, you know, manhood. We take this baby male deer,
and they call him the young prince,
right?
From the very
young
beginning.
Prince. And then we get to see a glimpse of his dad, who, like, dude, those antlers are crazy. Like, you're damn right someone's shooting at that deer. And, you know, he's got this crazy rack and just this monster big bodied deer. And what I love that they say about him is that he's old and wise and brave. And it's sort of like, those are the two most important things to align. Is like, you got to be brave, but not stupid, because you got to live.
And his relationship with dad is not like, he's not bringing him along. He shows up when it's like a critical moment, like Bambi's mother dies, and he's there. You know, it's not, it like, you can intuit that like that's his father, but it's not like because it's not like he's hanging there with his mom and mom's relying on her husband there. It doesn't set it up like that, which is probably very true to animal life.
Yeah, I was going to say,
way.
like, there's probably like 9 other Bambis out there that he's sort of, you know.
He's got some half brothers and sisters out there.
Yeah, for sure.
But his mom dies and he shows up and it's just this very stoic, like, yeah, your mom's gone. She can't help you anymore. So time to grow up, kid.
Right.
That's the message he gets.
Yeah, and in the hero's journey, that's the inevitable. That's Obi-Wan dying. That's you know, your guide and your sage.
Yeah,
the mentor character almost always dies. And,
yes, and
you know,
and
just like all of us in real life.
And watch it exactly. So because in watching Bambi, it doesn't feel like a whole hero's journey story, though that part is there. But it feels very true to life. Like at some point, your mentors will move on, your parents pass away in the circle of life, and because what's interesting is right after that point, he meets up with his old buddies who he hadn't seen forever. So he's forming his own community and kind of taking his place as like being in charge of the forest there. So he's relying more on peers than he is parents to like uplift him and be his community now.
Yeah, and there's something about this story that is, I think, indicative of a lot of fairy tales and a lot of stories prior to, I guess, our common age, which is this cyclical idea. This one, it's a lot like, it opens similarly to Lion King. Like there's a lot of similarities in this one to Lion King and this like
the
circle
baby
of life
born, sure.
idea. Yeah. But this your place in the progression of life as a whole. And and maybe it's when I was born, maybe it was where I was born, but I feel like a lot of the messaging and storytelling given to me growing up wasn't about here's where you fit in the whole human story. Yeah, it was about you are the end of the human story. It all culminates in you and your generation and you getting out there and being the hero and changing the world, and it all begins and ends with you and how amazing and special you are, and then that's it. And this Lady and the Tramp, you know, there's quite a few other stories like this where even Peter Pan is about maybe finding where you are in that life cycle, and that the story isn't about Bambi so much as it's about Bambi stepping into his calling and a larger natural order.
And I think it's a common theme that comes up in kids' movies, and it's a common theme that I'd say evokes a lot of emotion. For me as a parent in particular, like there's something heartbreaking about that message, but also like so heartwarming at the same time. And I think you've seen it over and over again. We talk about it with Bambi. We talk about it, Lion King and the circle of life, and that inevitably means Mufasa dying. I just watched Land Before Time. They mention the circle of life a lot in that, and it is hey, eventually the people who came before you will pass on, and you will have to take up the mantle, which is the reality of life. And it's a message that is very appropriate for kids, yet as a parent it breaks your heart that this is a message that is so appropriate for them as well.
Well, and the idea that the purpose of that mantle is not that you have it. The purpose of that mantle is that you steward it until it's time
There's
for you to pass it on.
There's a responsibility and a duty to manage that well.
And that I'm not the mantle. I am not the point of the mantle. The mantle is the point of me. And I will carry this for a time, and then I will hand it over, and that's the point. And so this came up. This was watching this and getting ready to get connected to. There's a woman in our community. She just turned 80 years old, and she's like a living saint. She's been all over the planet. She literally raised her little children in a third world village in northwestern Africa by choice, when she could have done it amongst any number of leisures and conveniences. She's been all over the world. She's got kids. She's got grandkids. She's wise. She's intelligent. She's compassionate. She has all the qualities that you would want in someone who was going to like climb the corporate ladder. But she did this other thing instead, which was committing to a mantle and creating a legacy. And so I was sitting here at her 80th birthday, we're looking around, and it's like, it's a glimpse of heaven. Like, there's so many people who have been personally affected by her, whose lives have been tangibly improved or created in the first place, who are going out and making their own ripples in the universe. And that she could trade that for her own life being the point.
Right.
And I was imagining what her 80th birthday would be like if that was the life she lived, where it's like, cool, like you've got all these material comforts and nobody really knows you all that well. You're not all that close to people, but like, wow, you sure did turn in like great revenue reports for your shareholders and going, man, like no one in the world would trade that one for hers once you're there at that point in life. And I think that's a form of virtue and a thing to aspire to that popularly feels lost. And maybe there's a whole section of the world that I don't know about, that I wasn't raised in, where that's not, where that's very front and center in terms of what people want for their lives. But
do you think there's something about stage of life too? Because I look at the stage of life you and I are in. I'm 38, and people, we're raising kids. You want to provide for your family. Inevitably, the keeping up with the Joneses things comes in. People around you have more things or less things, and the comparison and all of that. And it is, I think at this stage of life more than any other for me, it's just so easy to fall into that line of thinking. And I look at what you're talking about with this woman at 80, it's not succumbing to that temptation to organize your whole life around that. And that's not saying don't do what you need to do to make money and provide for your family, and the material comforts is not the problem. But if that is the focus, if that's the pursuit, if that is the goal, then, well, you're not carrying the mantle we're talking about that Bambi brings up well. And the you miss out on that by the time you get to that stage in life.
And so to look at someone and know, whenever she was at the point in life where you and I are now, and I'm 45, but I spent a bunch of time chasing aspirations and dreams and kind of set myself behind in a lot of ways. And but that she didn't get distracted by this. She did not take whatever bait or whichever path that is, that where the mantle is supplanted by the self. And and I suppose you got to believe in a mantle to begin with and care
that there is a purpose beyond just you, beyond you being the one who's front and center, beyond you living for your own circumstances. What that would be if Bambi just grew up and it was all about him being the little prince who stays little prince forever, and as long as I get to be the focus of everyone in my life, like, then you wouldn't have a good story, I'll tell you that.
But we are very early on presented with this majesty, and the majesty is described as brave and wise, and so that's pretty good. So the film, it's a short film. We have a tendency to talk about films longer than some of the actual films, but so I really don't know where else to go with this.
The one other point I wanted to bring up was the theme that this gets into. You see it across a lot of stories. Bambi's mother dies. There's something storytelling about your hero being an orphan. And I mean, every hero's journey, it's a common thing. It's Luke Skywalker, it's Harry Potter, it's Simba, it's name countless others. Put them in the comments.
King Arthur. I mean, it's always an orphan.
And so why is that? Why is that such a important piece because it's important enough that it comes up over and over again.
Yeah, well, part of it is I think psychologically we all hit a point where we realize we're sort of orphans. Like when we outgrow our parents or when we recognize that they're just human, there's this idea, as a child where I think my parents have all the answers.
Yeah.
And then there's a point where you recognize like, oh, they're all just figuring this out. So I really don't like that idea of mother and father dies for everybody.
That my parents will be able to sweep in and fix whatever problem I have, and they're going to be the higher power that restores me here.
Yeah, every one of us, I think, with decent maturity process, reaches a point where we become metaphorical orphans, sooner or later, no matter what. And then in the normal course of life, you become a literal orphan at some point. Both of my parents are orphans. They've outlived both their parents. And so we all, most of us will do that. And then we metaphorically all outgrow them at some point. Yeah. If you have a standard sort of healthy maturing process. So that's me talking out of my untrained process. So you would have to correct me on that one.
Everyone, thanks for tuning in to StoryDads. Please make a point to go like, comment, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave us a review. They help us out a lot. And back to the story. No. I mean, I certainly think that's true. I even think of even people I've known that have lost their parents at stages where it would be totally appropriate to lose their parents. They're at the end of their life and in their 80s and 90s, and they pass on. There's still a feeling of I'm the oldest now. I'm the oldest generation. There's no mom or dad. And I think recognizing your own mortality, I think that there's many different waves of that we go throughout our life. What you brought up, okay, there's things I know that my parents don't know in ways I've matured, maybe not necessarily beyond them, but in different ways and ways you recognize I'm the responsible one in the room again if we grow up in a responsible, mature way. I think there's also I think with Harry Potter and Luke Skywalker, it's I recognize there's something else out there. There's an empty space, and it's the magic that comes in to fill the void. Hey, you actually have this history. Hey, with Bambi on a certain level, I know we're kind of double clicking beyond just the Bambi story here. He's the young prince, right? And then what does that mean and entail? He has to discover that over his whole life beyond just what his mother will tell him, what his family will tell him. Harry Potter, you have this whole epic backstory. Luke, you have your father and you were an integral part of the order of the whole galaxy. And I think deep down we have this longing to have that sense of importance in our own life, that our life means something of cosmic importance. And the blank space that comes with the orphan story, I think fits into that.
Yeah, and then I think in this moment I'm realizing there might be another layer to that where there's something with these heroes that's different than just their parents, getting dementia or cancer and passing away in a bed. It's that they're taken from them, and their parents are taken from them by a force that they eventually have to confront. Yeah. And on a ancestral level, if we consider the Adam and Eve, if we're going to go full mythos and full C.S. Lewis and go to our first father and ancestor, our first mother, right? And they were taken from us. We are all orphans in that way. They were taken from us by the devil, and the devil steals, kills, and destroys. And so these forces of theft, murder, and destruction, and this, which is the hunters, man has come into the forest in Bambi. Yeah. It's Voldemort. It's Darth Vader, who is his father that killed his father.
There's an unnatural presence that comes in that.
Yes. And so then our calling is to go confront that thing, because all of these heroes go out and confront that thing. And so in the legend that, you and I live in this, we're called to go out and confront the works of the devil. And so whether the devil is a literal figure or a metaphorical figure, it is theft, destruction, and
Right,
murder.
right.
So it is in confronting that thing that took our parents away from us that we mature and that we
Right.
become the thing that we aspire to be, which is either, Bambi's like dope, big chested dad, or it's, the unfallen Vader, or
Yeah.
it's, that thing that can stand up to Voldemort, or
Right.
it's the pattern of Christ to stand up to and undo the works of the devil. And so like
right.
that might be what's really nested deep in that orphan idea as well, as like, not only are you an orphan, but you are unjustly an orphan. And the real call to adventure is to go confront that thing that made you an orphan.
Right. So I can't remember. Does Bambi confront the hunter, or is that
kind of like he in this? The hunting standards and the standards of outdoorsmanship in the 1940s were a little different than they are now. But like these dudes that go into the woods are just like wild, man. Like they're shooting at everything that moves. They're leaving their campfire unattended. They've got like this pack of angry dogs that they unleash. And like, I just love that like Bambi fights off more dogs than a grizzly bear, like somehow this dumb deer with like, a little 4-pointer is able to fight off all these things. And also like deer don't know that they can use their antlers on things other than other antlers,
Okay.
The kicking thing is right. They'll kick the hell out of stuff, but yeah, like it's so funny that he's just brawling with all these dogs, and it's like, dude, those dogs, like they use dogs to take down lions, man. Like I think that deer is toast. But anyway, yeah,
he's got to fight off something. Yeah.
He there's this danger that's threatening to take out the vulnerable, this doe that he's in love with, and so he like turns and kind of and his dad bolts. And so there's this inkling of that Bambi is in a way like surpassing his father in bravery. And so he goes back, confronts, confronts the hounds of hell, right? Because it's fire and the dogs, right? And so and then whoever gets that shot off on Bambi, like, dude, when he's like leaping over the chasm, that's a hell of a shot.
Yeah.
Like, I guess props that hunter. Maybe don't use.
You're getting subversive and sympathizing with the hunters, Micah.
That's right. Dude. The same thing I do in Avatar. When eventually we'll do an episode on Avatar when I sympathize with the Marines.
There you go.
But yeah, so I think Bambi does turn and face that thing that made him an orphan.
Yeah.
And I think that it's promising because even his, monster like 10-point dad didn't turn around and face those guys.
Yeah. Is you had said at the beginning when we talked about this how you realized that Bambi is all about sex. What do you mean about that?
Yeah. Like it's just, but it's funny. There's this idea again. It comes back to that idea that it's all for me. Like the mantle's made for me and not I for the mantle. And this movie, 101 Dalmatians does it. Lady and the Tramp does it, where they're like, dude, babies are awesome.
Yeah.
Like the best thing that you can do.
Okay, so celebrating birth, celebrating fertility, celebrating the rite of spring at the beginning is all these animals are coming to life and your kids are playing together and they're meeting friends. I mean, that's the whole. I'd say that's the whole first sequence of the movie that most people remember.
Right.
Because a lot of it, when I went into like, I remembered a couple of his friends that he plays with. I remember Thumper. I remember Flower. This is before I watched it again, and then I remember his mom dies by a hunter. But it's dude,
I had completely forgotten the last half of the movie.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, like Thumper knocks out a bunch of kids, and like his sequence of falling in love with that bunny is hilarious. And they
all grow up. You see all these kids who you remember as toddlers grow up to fall in love and start their own families.
Right. And that the point of the adventure is that.
Right.
Not the adventure.
Yeah.
And it's why we used to put, like a love subplot in every single adventure film.
Right.
Because, like, what's the point of an adventure if you're not gonna come home to a farm and settle down and like raise kids and till the land?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And at some point, I feel like we went, oh, well, let's just get rid of the subplot. It's really just about the adventure, and like it's
what we talked about. It's what we talked about. I remember when we did our very first episode, Moana, where like a long time ago, Maui and Moana are romantic interests.
Yeah, there would have been a love story there.
It very clearly went away from like, we're not doing that. These guys are going to be friends.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It works for that story, but it's
well, but it's
different.
myopic, and it's myopic in a way that, like, I guess if Bambi's all about sex, we're going to talk about dating a little bit. Like, I remember I reached a certain point and it was after my divorce or what, I was like re-entered the dating world. I was a little bit older, and which is way better. Like, dating when you're young and still afraid of it is like just a fiery hoop. And then coming back to it later, it was like, dude, I have superpowers because like you can't hurt my feelings, like I'm coming into the dating world like bulletproof. But one of the things I realized after having been married and like not lost all of my female friends, but like but they go away. You don't lose them. They go away because you're like,
well, you go through a transition like that, so much of life resets, including most of your relationships, or at least peer relationships that you had.
But like your male and female friends are great until your female friends get married, and then their best friend becomes their husband,
right?
And so now, like, you'd better learn to be friends with the husband because like they're not gonna be
you're not gonna be best buds anymore.
If they were, that would be unhealthy, and like probably they're just keeping the back door open, like, and so when I'm talking to friends or even myself when I was younger, and I'm going, well, I don't want to like ask this girl out that I really like because it's going to ruin our friendship, and it's like, hey, that friendship's going to ruin itself. Like sooner or later, she's going to find a dude that is going to supplant you, and you don't get to be your friend in the way that you were, and so you better like. Go
if you want to be that person, go try to be that person, and if you're not, then someone else is going to be that person, and you're going to drift away.
So you better do it, and like take your shot, ask her out, risk the friendship because the friendship's gonna risk itself. Like sooner or later, it goes away. And then how do we get onto this?
I don't know. We're talking about something the animals to do with Bambi.
We're talking.
We're talking about the animals, and then the whole point is to. You're up at the end.
The whole point
settle down and
that was my point with Moana is like, and why it's myopic to have these stories where the friendships don't coalesce into romance is because like by Moana 2 or Moana 3, Maui and Moana are not friends anymore. It's not a lasting bond.
So anyway, that's what we derived from Bambi, guys.
There you go. Yeah, somehow we did 36 minutes of Bambi, which I think is the point in the film in which mom dies.
Right.
So, there you go.
I mean, this is fun. Hunting season special, another short little one. But yeah, if you haven't seen it in a while, go back, check out the aesthetics. I guarantee there's a bunch of stuff you won't remember, a handful of things you will. And I kind of view this as one of the stories that is like, it's certainly older in the Disney canon, but you see like it's foundational for so many other stories. We brought up like the orphan thing. We brought up, the royalty, the little prince, and you see these themes that have been sprinkled throughout Disney, all kind of present in there. So it's kind of fun to go back and see that.
Yeah, definitely give it a revisit. And it's short, and your kids probably haven't seen it a million times. And it's beautiful. It's pretty. It's it's from an era of filmmaking where I think there was just enough of the like the artist's discretion that you get these weird sequences where they just do beautiful stuff for a little while, Like the rainstorm is so beatnik, and I love it, and I'd love to see some more of that in storytelling where these artists just go, well, why is this scene in there? And they go, I don't know. It just needs to be there. And,
just doing my thing, man. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is fun. We'll see you guys back for next time. Please make a point to like, comment, subscribe. Also, realize I haven't been saying this one. If you're listening on the Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of those, please leave us 5-star review. Those help us out a lot. And reviews. Don't forget about those too.
Yeah. Thank you. And I hope you enjoyed. Tell someone about it. Maybe kick off a silly conversation with one of your friends about a story that you watched. Go see a movie and then afterwards sit down and talk about it for way too long. Like this. Let's do some more of this.
It'll be good. And you'll be better friends as a result. And then join us for our next episode.
Yep. See you next time.
Bye, everyone.